I want to send a message to progressives at the end of 2014 here, but also, more importantly, moving into 2015. I have some thoughts about what's been going on with the so-called progressive movement and how much impact we've had and how much we've moved forward. And in 2 words, my message is stay focused. Just because issue by issue the progressive movement is very popular, and just because Americans agree with us, that doesn't mean that we're going to win. And oftentimes, I think we conflate the 2 things. We say, well, we're arguing for things that are just so duh that how can we lose? But you have to understand the system doesn't work off of duh. The system is not based off of common sense. The system isn't even based off of democracy. In fact, rather clearly, the political system we have today doesn't address the grievances of the majority. In fact, they do the opposite in many respects. There's been political science research that shows that the politicians are more likely to listen to the concerns of the rich and the corporations and their donors than they are of the majority of the American people. So we don't have a system that's really representing us. So sometimes people fall into the trap of mistaking the fact that we are right and we are popular on the issues. They conflate that with the idea that we're going to win. No, we don't know that we're going to win. If we want to win, we have to work. If we want to win, we have to bust our asses. I mean, this really, if you think about it, goes back, the same idea goes back to the civil rights movement. You know, people in, 1962 or 61 or 60, a lot of people thought, it's inevitable. Eventually, we're going to get a system that gets rid of the worst kinds of segregation and the worst racist laws that there are. People thought that, but you still have to go out and fight for it. You still have to go out and march for it. You still have to go out and, be willing to risk your health and your safety, put it on the line in order to get the desired result. It's not enough to say, well, we see the trends of history and the trends of history are moving in this proper direction, therefore let's all sit back and have a drink. No, we have to, put our boots on the ground and start doing things that matter. Now, how do you address the different problems that arise throughout the country that we're concerned about? Well, getting involved in any way makes a difference. No matter how small, no matter how large, if you're doing something, you are helping. It might feel like we live in a very atomized, individualistic culture where we're all hiding behind computer screens, but if you do the tiniest thing, like picking up the phone and calling your congressman, that matters. That makes a difference. In fact, I remember we did a story on the show where we mentioned how a certain town in Florida, they kept arresting a 90-year-old man for feeding the homeless. So we mentioned on air, well, how about you call this town, you call the mayor, who was responsible for signing the law, which basically outlawed feeding the homeless. How about you call the mayor and you say, stop right now. I'm outraged by this. This is ridiculous. This is pathetic. And a majority of the lawmakers in this place say that they're Christians. And this is what you do? You arrest a 90-year-old man feeding the homeless? This is insane. So what happened? I got like 6 or 7 different tweets and emails and people who listen to the show responding to me. And they're saying, yeah, I called. Yeah, I emailed them and I called and this is the response I got back. Take a look at the response I got back. And look, that's just the people who did it and then let me know that they did it. I mean, it's at least double that for people who did it. So you are having an impact when you do something like that. You don't think that the mayor of this tiny place feels the pressure when all of a sudden he looks in his email and he sees that, there's an extra 100 or 200 people who are angry at him and who are saying, whoa, are you crazy? What are you doing here? So it makes all the difference in the world. Now, that idea was not my idea, to be clear, because I got it from the article I read about it. I forgot whether it was in Crooks and Liars or Addicting Info or something like that, but I relayed the message and then you guys acted on it. That makes a difference. No matter how small your contribution is, it's a contribution. One small thing that we did here at Secular Talk is, I don't know whether this wasn't this year, it might have been last year. Lilith and I did the shirt drive. It was her idea. It was a great idea. And so we raised some money, and I was like, well, what should we do with the money? First, I wanted to give it to Lilith because she helps the show out tremendously. And then she said, no, I refuse to take it. And it was her idea to give it to Wolfpack. Wolfpack, of course, is the movement to try to get money out of politics, the movement to get a constitutional amendment to make it so that we have a democracy again, to make it so that our opinions matter, to make it so that we are the only ones paying our politicians, therefore they will actually listen to us and they will represent us, as opposed to the way it works right now where big corporations and billionaires are the ones that pay them, so they listen to them. So we just gave a little bit. I don't remember how much it was, $150, $200, something like that, maybe a little more. But every little bit makes a difference. And whether you give a $10 donation to Wolfpack, or you pick up the phone and you call your congressperson, or you participate in a Black Lives Matter protest, you're doing something positive. And when we keep the pressure on, then it becomes inevitable that change will come. But if we just have the ideas in our head and we don't act on it, well, that doesn't mean anything. You could have whatever ideas in your head you want, but unless you put it into action, it's irrelevant. There's plenty of people in the country, who are libertarians, for example, who want to see their philosophies implemented, but, you don't often see pure libertarian protests or movements, so you don't really see a lot of movement in that direction at a federal level, at a national level. So getting up and doing something about it, having your voice heard, that affects change. Now, I want to reiterate what I said before, because this is the most important point you should take away if you're a progressive from this. Just because our ideas are popular does not mean that our policies will be implemented. We have to fight for that. So just how popular are our policies? We blow everybody else out of the water. Every other political movement around. 80% of the American people want to raise the minimum wage. Even a majority of Republicans. That's one of our cornerstones. That's one of the biggest things we believe in and that we fight for. There's been plenty of fast food workers protests and labor protests around the country this year. And what they're doing is they're fighting for a living wage. They're fighting for an increase in the minimum wage. 80% are with us. We still haven't gotten it yet. So we have to keep fighting. In fact, fight twice as hard. 90% of the American people want a universal background check for gun purchases. Because that's not even, the idea that infringes on your liberty or it takes away your Second Amendment rights, that's a silly thing to believe and a silly thing to say. It doesn't. All we're saying is no crazy people, nobody who is a schizophrenic or is a 3-time felon who committed violent crimes, those people shouldn't be able to get guns. So do a background check, universal, no gun show loophole. 90% are with us. We still haven't gotten that yet. Okay, so let's fight harder. Pick up the phone, make more phone calls. Get out there and march wherever there is an event where you can do that on this issue. All these things matter. Only 17% of the American people want to keep fighting these wars. I love the comical story we covered this week, how the war in the war in Afghanistan is officially over. Meanwhile, they go on to say that we're keeping 13,500 troops there for years to come. Oh, really? Is that over? They go, no, it's okay. We're done with combat missions, except we're going to continue to fight the Taliban at times. So is that not combat? That's the definition of combat. You're staying there and you're going to fight the Taliban. So what you're doing is exactly the same thing you're doing now, just with a slightly lower number of troops there. We're still there, and they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes and say, no, pay no attention to it. Act like the war's not happening. You've been doing that for the last 5-10 years anyway. No, we are paying attention, and we want out. Only 17% of the American people are with the warmongers on this, so we need to fight, and we need to protest, and we need to have our voice heard. How about a majority of the American people wanted action on immigration and wanted action on climate change? There was a massive climate change protest recently. Around the same time, what happened? We got the news that China and the U.S. made a deal to reduce carbon emissions. Those aren't disconnected. Those things happened around the same time for a reason. When you get, thousands of people in the streets of New York City and you screw up the workday because you screw up traffic and you get in people's business, then people in power start taking notice. And we got action on immigration, some action. We got Obama's executive order because enough is enough. He made promise after promise after promise, and the polls are overwhelmingly on the side of do something. So he did something. So again, apply pressure and you get the right results. 59% of the American people say don't you dare cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid under any condition. So if they start to do it, you're going to hear an uproar, and that uproar is going to be in your face, and it's going to be obnoxious, and it should be all those things. And then we will win on that issue, too, if we apply pressure. 60% want to raise taxes on the rich. We got it to a small degree, although it only applies to people who make over $400,000 and $450,000. And they promised it would be over $250,000, but it's a start. So we're moving somewhat in the right direction there. Again, the majority are with us. But to illustrate my point in the clearest way possible, 59% of the American people want to legalize gay marriage. Now, it was a big year on the gay marriage front because now a majority of the states have gay marriage. So it's a big change. It was 13 states, and then all of a sudden, boom, next thing you know, you blink, and it's more than half the states. So it's a positive thing. But remember, it's still not all the states. So that means we can't rest. It's still not all the states, and in 29 states, you can be fired for being gay. In 29 states, a diner owner can kick you out of the diner because he thinks as a man you're slightly effeminate and he's uncomfortable with that. We still have a long way to go. Never mind the fact that the world over, the problem is worse. And of course we should stand in solidarity with all of our brothers and sisters all around the world. So for example, it's 83 countries that have just made it illegal to be gay, period. Like, it's illegal to be gay. 83 countries. That's insanity. In fact, it's about 10 countries that put you to death for being gay. So to think that, see, here's the thing. We're moving in the right direction on some of these issues, but to think that, well, we're going to win anyway, so let's relax. Tell that to the people in the countries where they get executed for being gay. Tell that to the people in the countries where they get thrown in jail for being gay. Tell that to the people in Mississippi when they get fired because their boss thinks they're gay. To those people, it doesn't feel like we're moving in the right direction. So we can't get there fast enough. Buckle down, double down, stay serious, and stay focused. That's my message.